Hey folks, David Stewart here. Hope y'all are having a great day. It's time for some Wednesday fun. So, thought I'd talk about a couple things and then, I don't know, we'll play a game or do something like that. Just general stuff I've been looking at the last couple of weeks at this point because I've been sick. So, alright, so let's hop into it. So first thing, yeah, I've been better, doing a lot better for a while. I'm still actually sick. I have like a really bad sore throat, and I've got bronchitis that'll probably have for a couple weeks as some sort of secondary thing. And the thing about bronchitis is that it's not really treatable, is what I found out. It's like you know, if you got bronchitis and you went to the doctor and they gave you antibiotics, it probably shortened the duration of your bronchitis by like a day. It's just not very effective at stopping that because it's more of like an inflammation kind of thing. So that's the main thing. I'm still like coughing up a lot of stuff, but I'm better for the most part. My voice isn't all the way there, so if I keep it a little bit short today, like an hour, that's why. I definitely, like, my voice was not handling reading a book to my kids last night, so anyway, I'll try to not push it too hard. Hopefully y'all are having a good day with all of that. So let's take a look. Let me actually pop the chat out so I don't have to look so far over to my other screen to take a look at what's going on. Anyway, I hope you guys are having a great day. So what's there to talk about with Corona? I did a whole blog post if you didn't read that. Basically, I got it from my kid. So my son got sick. We didn't think it was coronavirus because he wasn't even sick for like a whole day. And kids apparently, I don't know if any kids have ever died of coronavirus or even had serious complications. So kids seem to get it and it's like a little cold to them. But for whatever reason, if you read the blog post, this is a great example of how you operate in the unknown, that people are constantly trying to find information to explain the world around them. And that information simply doesn't exist in most cases. Most of what you heard from the media is simply not true, or it's disproven the next week, or it's disproven the next week and reproven the week after. And the reality is most people don't know what's going on with this virus. Most of the experts are still trying to figure out, and we're not going to have a great grasp of like what exactly to expect with it. There's a lot of unknowns. So it's one of those things that, my kids were playing with other kids that were related to us, that they got sick, and then a couple days later, our kids got sick. So there was some kind of transfer in there going along. And I don't make my kids wear masks or something when they're playing with their cousins. That's like way too aggressive a step. But that's how I got it. And it was definitely way worse for me and my wife. My kids were barely sick. My wife got a really bad secondary sinus infection that was super painful, but antibiotics got rid of that. I got basically SARS symptoms, and those lasted about 2 days. So I had like 3 days of really high fever that just medication didn't really do anything. And then I was feeling a lot better. And so I went to sleep one night. And actually, I didn't make videos prior to me coming down. I started getting sick the day that I usually record all my videos. But I wasn't recording them anyway because I actually had a corneal abrasion. And I have no idea how I got it. But my eye was swollen up. I had actually gone to the doctor 2 days before I got sick to see about this eye that had gotten all kinds of like swollen up, and it just looked like hell. And the doctor's like, "Yeah, you got a corneal abrasion." I'm like, I don't know how that happened. Maybe I got something in my eye and I like rubbed it, and it just like irritated the whole thing. So I had this like big puffy eye that looked like this. Anyway, so I couldn't get any videos recorded because I looked like crap. I was gonna just do some voiceover videos, but then I had a fever of like 103.8 or something, like really high for me. I usually don't get high fevers at all. So anyway, that was like 3 days, and then I was feeling better, and I went to sleep, and I woke up at 3 in the morning, about 3 hours after I went to sleep, and like my lungs hurt. It was like the most painful one of the most painful things I've ever felt as far as my lungs go. I couldn't breathe. I was coughing up like mucus that was mixed with blood because I think that was basically because of how forceful my coughs were. I damaged my voice to where I sounded like Lemmy, sounded like Lemmy Kilmister for like a couple days after that. So I just couldn't really talk, and I think it was because I'm a tuba player. I have a really big lung capacity, and I have a lot of force behind my diaphragm. I've been a wind musician and a singer my whole life. So I cough really hard, and I think I damaged my vocal folds just coughing, and so that was making all the blood come up. Went to the hospital the next day, and so they put me in the hospital because it was getting better, actually. So the SARS stuff really only lasted, the worst of it lasted about 6 hours. Once I got up and got out of bed and started coughing everything up, I started feeling a little better, like I could actually breathe. Went to the hospital. They're like, we don't want to keep you because I don't know why. They're like, it's not bad enough. Like, we don't need to put you on a ventilator because you have, your blood's oxygenated. So they gave me a bunch of ibuprofen and then sent me home at the end of the day. So I went home. And ibuprofen actually worked really, really good for the inflammation. So, and then I've had people say, hey, I've heard you're not supposed to use ibuprofen. Again, you're operating in the unknown. What happens when you operate in the unknown is you start going with things that are really orthodox. And the things that are really orthodox are the things that have been proven to work on a variety of ailments for decades, if not centuries. If you're taking aspirin for fever, it's been effective for a long time. So it was Z-Pak and ibuprofen, and the SARS stuff went away really after a day or two, and then I just have a lingering bronchitis that's really annoying. I had to sleep in a separate room for a while because I was coughing so much. Today I have a really bad sore throat, so there's something else going on. I might have gotten strep throat as a result, but we'll see how it feels the next couple days. So that's what's going on with that. So I'm fine. My whole family's fine. I really appreciate the prayers. People are saying they're praying the rosary, and I really do appreciate that. I absolutely do. And we got better a lot quicker. And what we were really thankful about, because we weren't, there's not virtually no, it's an unpleasant thing. It's virtually no danger of me or my wife dying of it. It's still something that you should avoid getting because it's not fun. It will make you sick for a while. You won't be able to do much. But we have elders. Our elders are in a lot more vulnerable position, even than other people their age, due to pre-existing medical conditions. So my father-in-law, he has a somewhat compromised immune system due to a whole bunch of things, health complications that have built up over his life, including chronic pancreatitis and stuff like that. My mother-in-law had cancer 30 some odd years ago at this point, and she had radiation treatment. It was lymphoma, Hodgkin's disease. And so they treated one of the sites or two of the sites with radiation, targeted radiation. Well, that actually causes lung damage. And so her lungs are already in an incapacitated state. It's kind of like she has chronic bronchitis or something because of it. Like her lungs are reduced function already. So that could actually be, that would be somebody that really should not be getting something that can cause severe acute respiratory syndrome or whatever they call it now. And it is really the same category virus that caused SARS years ago, and SARS is the response to it. It's not the virus itself. It's the acute respiratory distress, which I experienced for about a day, and then I pretty much got better. And one of the reasons that I think, even though I got sick, it didn't get me that sick, is that I was pretty healthy going into it. But I will say that for people who aren't healthy, I could easily see how this could put somebody on a ventilator, or put them in the hospital, or even kill them if they're particularly vulnerable. Because I do a lot of cardio. My cardiovascular system's in very good shape. I'm generally very healthy all the time. So for me, it wasn't that bad, honestly, compared to what other people could experience. And so if you look at it, most of the people who are not in those obvious categories, like they're 80 years old, people who are dying when they're 30, they almost always have something else that is going on, like they're obese or they have some kind of pre-existing medical condition. It's extraordinarily rare that something like this could actually kill you if you are young and healthy. And so it's just a general thing. When you're dealing with the unknown, the healthier and stronger you are, the more likely you are to survive anything, survive any disease. So just general stuff with that. So I do appreciate the prayers, and I appreciate all the well wishes as well. So that's going on with that. I have 2 holes in my heart and severe asthma, so I'm a goner if I get it. I hope you don't get it, and you should take precautions to not get it. And hopefully the people around you have that same courtesy. So, if I go shopping and stuff, I wear a glove and a mask. I didn't get this from the shopping market, right? I didn't get this from the supermarket, from some rando. I got it through my kids in normal situations where we really wouldn't expect them to get the virus, but one of them happened to have it somehow, transferred through people who just didn't end up coming down with symptoms and stuff like that. And you only know kind of after the fact, the kids got sick after they hung out for this party. I'm not going to make a 4-year-old wear a mask. He's not going to wear it anyway. He's not going to wear it properly anyway. So hopefully you have people around you that will keep you protected and safe until, there's a general herd immunity from it. I don't know. So I don't know where we're going to go with this. Anyway, so that's what's up. That's what's up with that. I'm doing a lot better, and I do appreciate it. Did your sense of smell come back? It's barely coming back. I could smell onions cooking in the frying pan the other day. My wife's sense of smell is completely still gone. Hers went before mine, and she didn't realize it until I was. So this is how I lost my sense of smell. First, before I lost my sense of smell, everything smelled bad. I was eating eggs, and I eat a lot of eggs. I eat a lot of eggs every day. I eat basically the same things every day. That's how I have a diet, and I'm not like 900 pounds because my natural inclination is to just eat cake from the moment I wake up until I die later in the afternoon. So I eat a pretty regulated diet, and so I eat a lot of eggs every day. And to me, eggs, especially because I eat them more with like egg whites. So I have like, 1 whole egg or maybe 2 whole eggs, and then a bunch of equivalent of egg whites, like in the cartons. I get them at Costco. So they don't taste like that much. So I always put Tabasco sauce all over them. I was eating the eggs, and I'm like, there's something wrong with these eggs. These eggs smell weird. Now, eggs, especially egg whites, they have a little bit of a smell. And the best thing I could say is like if you smell egg whites hard enough, they smell kind of like farts. So I'm like, there's something wrong with these eggs, though. They smell bad. And so I have my wife smell the eggs. She's like, I can't smell anything. I'm like, these are like drowning in Tabasco sauce. What it was the vinegar and the Tabasco sauce. There was some element of that. That was all I could smell. And everything smelled bad like that. Like potato chips smelled bad. Everything smelled bad for a day. And then I couldn't smell anything. But my wife figured out she couldn't smell anything right there. She's like, I can't smell anything. And she's like smelling air freshener. She's like, nothing, I can't smell anything. So we just didn't even realize that we weren't smelling anything. And then, so now it's coming back a little bit, but luckily it's not like I can only smell bad things. Yeah, it's like I could smell onions. I have like a rock star here. I can almost smell it. Like it's just, the smelling is dulled, and the taste was really dulled too. So I'd be eating everything, and things just wouldn't taste like anything. And I don't eat a really flavorful diet as it is. Like I said, I like to eat egg whites because it's a lot of protein and just not a lot of extra calories, and they could be quite filling. So if you eat a lot of them, so egg whites don't really taste like anything to begin with, and then you can't taste anything. It's like I didn't even really try to have a diet for a couple days there. But do you think that your lung problems are a secondary infection? Probably. Hardwick. Yeah, I think that's probably it. But the thing is, bronchitis is more like an immune response. In addition to that, that's why antibiotics aren't very effective with it, I think. It's an inflammation thing. And talking to doctors, a lot of times what they would prescribe for stuff like this is glucocorticoids like prednisone, which is really effective. So if you get like a really strong kind of bronchitis, they'll give you like glucocorticoids, and then boom, your symptoms look just like go away immediately. Problem is that lowers your immune system, and they're very afraid of lowering your immune system, obviously, if you have a very virulent virus, a virus that spreads really easily or could come back really quickly. So they haven't been giving people steroids, and that's the first thing. Are you taking any steroids? And, that what they mean by that is like, stuff like prednisone. I don't know about some of the other, people take steroid medications for a variety of things to control inflammation. Especially, so those are going to be corticosteroids, and so they don't give that to you because it'll lower your immune system. And so you're in this again. You're dealing with the unknown. So you're like, we're not sure what would happen if we gave you prednisone, but we think it might be bad. So if you don't need it to survive, we should not give it to you, because the downside is you're gonna feel bad, but you're not really at risk of dying. Or the upside is you could feel better, or you could have a really big downside if you took it, and then like the virus would get way worse. So they haven't really been giving people a lot of the medications that they would normally give, like prednisone. Oh, thank you, Kyle Potter. I do appreciate the super chat. I'm so glad to hear you're okay. My book is at 30,000 words. Great job. 30,000 words is as long as like all the books I released last year. I did a bunch of little mini books last year. I'm writing a longer one. It's going to be the third Eternal Dream book, but like City of Silver was like 35, maybe 38. Keys is like 33,000. Crown of Sight's only about 24,000. Same thing with Voices of the Void. They're really short books, so you can get a full story done in that amount of time. That's what the pulp writers of yore used to do. H.P. Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard. They'd hit that 20,000 word mark, and they could tell you a really great story in about 20,000 words. So 30,000 words is really good. I mean, that's actually a sizable chunk. Just because a lot of fantasy people publish like 150,000 word plus books doesn't mean, I got to write 150,000 words. Old Man in the Sea was like 30,000 words. I think The Great Gatsby is like 45,000. So you could tell a pretty hefty. You could tell a full story in 30,000 words for sure. So congrats on that. Keep working on it. Are you on a cycle or juicing? No, that'd be funny. Are you taking any steroids? Like, yeah, I'm on D-ball. I'm taking Primo. I'm taking 300 milligrams test base. I am using clenbuterol to burn off some fat. They'd be like, what? If you tell that to a nurse, they'd be like, what are you talking about? It's like, you asked me if I was on any steroids. It's just giving you my protocols. I take, I divide my test up into 3 shots. I take, 100 on Monday. I take 100 on Wednesday afternoon. Take another 100 on Friday. It's like something like that. To your steroid cycle. That would be really funny though. But I think they're more thinking like the standard medication steroids that people use, which are things like prednisone or Advair or something like those corticosteroids that are there to help control inflammation. Fluticasone. Fluticasone is the Flonase, and it's also an inhaler called Flovent, I think. So those are corticosteroids. I used to use Flonase actually for a long time, until I realized it was making me gain weight, like on my face. It was making my face bigger. Like my weight on the scale was same, and I'm like, I'm looking bigger, man. I'm looking puffy around the face, and it was something with that steroid was causing that. So stopped using that, and the face kind of thinned out a little bit. But I think your head just gets bigger maybe as you age. Look at my head's gotten a little chunkier as I've gotten older. In Star Trek Voyager, there's an episode in which the EMH takes control of 7 and 9's body. Why doesn't the Picard just upload him to all of the Borg to defeat them? I don't know. Pretty sure Picard's just an android in the new one. Have you seen Murdoch's Sargon or Jordan Peterson's episodes? No, I haven't. I'm sorry. I don't know my steroids that well. It's like known a lot of gym rats over the years, so they know what they're doing. Yeah, so Santa Claus says prednisone is taken. It suppresses the immune system. It's taken for inflammation. Something they've prescribed me for it when I had bronchitis. Was it last year? I think it was last year. I had really bad bronchitis. I didn't take it because I'm like, I don't want to. It has like a stimulant effect. So if you take prednisone, you could be like up all night. I don't like it. So, but it does work. It does work for that. But one of the complications is that it does suppress the immune system. Glucocorticoids do that. I recently found out that Michael Moorcock has used and recommended the Lester Dent pulp paper master fiction plot. It's a page or two long, can easily be found on the internet. Yes, Michael Moorcock's a guy who could write a book in a weekend. That's how good he was at, and he plans it out. He's a planner, he's a plotter, not a pantser. So he knows what the story's going to do, and he sits down and he does like a writing sprint. Then he just can chill out. And that guy is put out a huge amount of work. He's old as dirt now. He's like almost 90. And he's put out so many books, and so many of them are good. He's definitely someone to pay attention to when it comes to the craft. Apparently they're going to incorporate what's been happening this year into the next season of Picard. Yes, that makes sense for a futuristic show. You know, I miss Gene Roddenberry because he always just had a vision of the future that's like things are better and mankind's progressed. He had a very positive vision of the future. Now it's like, no, this has to reflect now, not hope for the future. Oh, Santa Claus, I used to take it for a while for my inflammatory bowel problems. Yeah, I think I've heard of that for, I don't know what it's called, Crohn's disease or ulcerative colitis, which can be effective. Who was it? Jerry Lewis? Jerry Lewis was on it for a long time. That's why he got all fat, because it can do a bunch of stuff when you're on it for a long time. And it's really hard to get off prednisone if you've been on it a long time. It's like if you just stop taking it, apparently you really shouldn't do that. So prednisone is a serious medication. But that's what they're asking people is like, are you taking any of these things because a lot of people have inflammatory diseases, and you could end up getting the virus. Maybe you're more likely to get it because your immune system's a little more suppressed than someone else's. Like someone else might get exposed, the body clears the virus out, nothing happens to them. You know, they never get sick. And then the next person gets sick, and it's because, you know, maybe they were taking a medication that was hurting it. We don't even know. That's what's kind of cool about it. I have not read the Lester Dent pulp paper master fiction plot, but I should. I thought they could actually make an interesting series out of trying to de-escalate the Dominion War militarization of the Federation. But no, they just made Mass Effect. There you go. All right, next subject. So we talked about coronavirus a little bit. You don't want to get it, but you'll probably be fine. Schools and COVID. This is a good one to transfer into. I'd put a lot of this stuff up on my blog at dvspress.com. And actually, before I go any further, real quickly, so free books. I'm going to talk about something a little bit. So you can get a free book right now. I just linked it in chat. The book is called Muramasa Blood Drinker. It's one of my earlier books. I think I have it here. Why am I giving this book away today? Well, it's because all the Western game journos got very upset over a book called, or a game called Tsushima? Hold on, what's it called? Shadow of Tsushima, right? No, Ghost of Tsushima. I actually wanted to play this game, but I haven't bought it because I don't have an extra 60 bucks right now. But and I also don't have time to play really violent games. So anyway, the Western journals are like, how dare an American company make a game set in 14th century Japan? Or actually 13th century Japan. So I wrote a book that's set in 16th century Japan, early 16th century Japan. So you should check it out. People really like this one. It's definitely a fan favorite. So if you haven't read Muramasa Blood Drinker, it's a nice, thick read, but it's a lot of fun, very violent, lots of action, lots of characters that people like. So please check that one out. You can download that one for free. I'm a white guy who wrote a samurai book, and I should be canceled for that, obviously. Now, what's really funny is that the Japanese games press really liked Ghost of Tsushima. And they liked it because it's a good game, presumably. And they weren't upset that an American company made a samurai game. And one of the points that I make here, that I've made in the past, is like, if somebody's upset that I wrote a book set in the Muromachi period, no one can complain because no one has lived in the Muromachi period, right? It's like, hey, is this your culture? Well, it's your culture from 700 years ago, or 500 years ago. So none of us were alive during that time to get offended about how I've misrepresented the Muromachi period. And in reality, I've never met anybody. I've had people from Japan read this. They never cared that I wasn't Japanese. And none of my fans cared that it wasn't Japanese. It's people that are like, let me be offended on your behalf. They feign offense. Like, I'm going to be offended that a white person did something with feudal Japan. And nor do Europeans ever get upset that Japanese companies make stuff with European knights or something, right? Oh, here's some European fantasy that Japan did. No one gets upset about that because it's, European fantasy is not our culture. If you set something in medieval England, none of us are from medieval England. $10 from Contrarian 420. Thank you. Hey, consider that my request you read Cormac McCarthy's Blood Meridian. I think you'll love it. Okay. All right, I'll copy it into another window so I don't forget that. I appreciate that. Thank you for the $10. So we'll check that out. So anyway, there's a free book for you guys. You can download that. Why not? Because if I'm going to get canceled, and no one can really cancel me. I'm kind of anti-fragile, so can't really get canceled. You guys can just enjoy a cool samurai story with lots of good fighting and some good supernatural stuff. So that's another one. Of course, Western games journalists. What do we want to say? What else do we want to say about them? They're looking perpetually for things to be offended about. They don't play games. They don't like games. They aren't good enough at games to actually be able to report on them. Generally, they don't know what they're talking about when they give any kind of criticism. They don't understand art theory or aesthetics to be able to understand what games are doing. And they clearly don't understand gameplay, hence they're not able to play the games. So in general, the best games journalists in the West are going to be just dudes on YouTube. That's what I found. And the guys working at the magazines, it's just kind of fodder for like contrarian opinion giving, like what I tend to do on the channel. That's it, I feel like. The Japanese tend not to care about PC. They don't even mind when Scarlett Johansson was cast in Ghost in the Shell. Yeah, they didn't really care. God forbid people make a game or a book or a movie set in a different country. At the same time, like they made a live action Full Metal Alchemist, and a bunch of the characters in that are explicitly European, and they're played by Japanese actors. And the movie might not have been that good, but no one really cared. No one was like, wait a minute, these characters are clearly Caucasian in the manga. It's like, no one cares. As a trans green slug person, I'm offended that you don't think I was alive at that time. What is cancel culture? Cancel culture is you said something that is counter to the narrative at some point. It could be now, could be 30 years ago you said it. You could have written an article 30 years ago that women shouldn't be on the front lines of combat. And as a result of that, you should no longer ever work again. That's cancel culture. You should be fired from your job and you should not be permitted to work again and you should die. Because the whole point, they really want you dead. Because that's the same as that. It's like you can't hold an opinion on the internet without getting fired. That's really cancel culture. So if you think about a really, I think, great example is the Covington High kids, Nick Sandman or whoever. He basically got doxxed by the press because he showed up with a MAGA hat to like a protest, and some guy beat a drum in his face and they said he was harassing him. So they basically made it so he couldn't get into college. They smeared him. They doxed him. So he was getting, people had his address. And so they could anonymously send him bombs if they wanted to, right? Things like that. That's really cancel culture. Cancel culture is very pointed for regular people, and it's really directed towards regular people who aren't independent celebrities that their job is to put out opinions. You can't really cancel Rush Limbaugh, but you can cancel some guy who says, some guy says, hey, Donald Trump is our president, and he gets fired from his job. That's cancel culture. That's what it is. The Trader Joe's racist packing petition. I have not heard this one yet. Have you read any of Lester Dent's novels? I totally have, but I can't tell you which ones because it's been so long. He wrote most of the Doc Savage novels. That's right. That's right. Yeah, you're right. Do you think if Bill Gates is caught being associated with the COVID-19 issue, will ever be brought to justice under the Trump administration? No. He won't. It's too aloof. What's your take on The Last of Us 2? I'm not buying it, and I won't play it. Are you playing Oblivion tonight? Eventually, yeah. Yeah, critics or journalists, they don't really understand what they're covering, so they just get upset over nonsense. It's about trying to generate that controversy and get those clicks. Okay, yeah, next one, schools and COVID. So, I took this as an opportunity to talk about what schools actually do. People are really afraid of opening schools again because kids can spread, even though it's not really dangerous for them, they could spread this virus around and then get other people who are more vulnerable sick, right? People are freaking out about this, and then, it's weird that we have Republicans that are like, oh, we got to open schools up. It's like the schools are a major indoctrination ground for your opposition. So how can we continue the current school arrangement when schools are and always have been a giant pathological petri dish? They've always been very bad about spreading disease. One kid in your kindergarten class gets chickenpox, they all get it. That actually happened to me when I was in kindergarten. Everyone in the class, all 5-year-olds at the school got chickenpox at the same time. If we abandon the current paradigm of grouping children by age in small boxes, how will they get socialized? That's really the next set of arguments there, which is most people are really not arguing for education because you can teach kids without school. It's like, well, how are they get socialized? Let's talk about what that means. And then how will our children learn without school? Well, lots of people can learn without school. You learn most of the things that matter, without school. But let's talk about what schools actually do, because schools are not about education per se. Education is a product that's produced jointly with a bunch of other things at school. So here's the other things that schools actually do, and this is what people are actually pulling their hair out about because different interest groups are going to care more or less about that. Number one is welfare. Schools distribute welfare benefits directly. There's a bunch of them. Free lunch and free breakfast now. So that's free food. That's a direct welfare benefit. It's giving people food, and it's means tested. So basically, based on people's reported income, they get free lunch or breakfast. And I'll just tell you as an aside, the children of illegal immigrants tend to always qualify for this because their parents don't report their income. So this is a thing, and I've taught at rural schools full of immigrants. They work for cash. So they work in the agricultural industry or other industries for cash because they don't have a social security number, for instance, or a taxpayer identification number. So they get paid cash and they just don't report it. They buy things, buy a car cash. You can buy anything cash still. You just don't report it. Nobody ever follows up on it. And so their kids get free lunch. Even though they could easily afford to feed their children, the kids get free lunch. That's just an aside. So you see schools where like 95% of the kids qualify for free or reduced lunch. It could be that they're super poor area, but it's more than likely just the parents aren't reporting any income, especially when it's one of these rural communities. It's like they're not rich, but they also just aren't reporting any income, so they get tons of welfare benefits for free. But schools also do medical care directly, and they even provide childcare. They'll provide daycare for free, after-school daycare, and they'll provide childcare during the school day for for teenage single moms. So there's a bunch of direct welfare benefits, and it's also a point of sale for other welfare benefits. Like counseling, social workers will come in and get people pulled into the welfare system through school. Schools will pay for dentistry. Schools will pay for tons of stuff that is welfare. It is, it's the dole. It's direct benefits to people based on means testing, predominantly, right? So obviously anyone that's involved in the welfare system, one of the things that they'll refer to is like, schools have to open up again because the children are literally starving. If we're not giving them free or reduced lunch, if we're not giving them lunch or breakfast, they'll die because their parents don't feed them. Think about that argument for a minute, that if their parents won't feed them food, why are we letting them live with parents? The truth is that the parents feed them food, plenty of food at home. And that's also why there's a really strong correlation between obesity and poverty here in the U.S. The poorer you are, the more likely you are to be obese. And there's a whole bunch of things that go in with that, but it's not that they're not eating, right? If you're not eating, there wouldn't be that correlation. Could be that school lunches are really unhealthy, but that's not really what it is. So it's a point of sale for welfare, which means a lot of social workers are going to be super invested in schools opening back up in some capacity. There are benefits to that too, because if everybody's coming to school, you can actually identify families that, because we don't have communities anymore in the U.S., we're atomized. People who are being neglected, kids who are being neglected or abused, they get caught through schools more than anything. Parents see the child abuse and they report it, and that's how a lot of child abuse is caught. So I just want to mention that, by the way. It's not like a 100% one way or the other. Organized sports is another one for those who have the skill to do it or want to do it, and also arts and music for those who want to do it or have the skills to do it. These are things that not everyone has access to. Some kids don't make the football team, so they don't get organized sports for free. Some people don't make, we don't usually exclude people from arts, but not everyone wants to do arts, but everyone pays for arts. So that's another argument. Oh, but kids, they need this music. They need this enriching arts. They need access to arts. It's not just about reading and writing and math. Of course we can do reading and writing and math at home. They need arts. And what I'd ask you is can you do organized sports and can you do arts outside of school? And the answer is, hell yes, you can. I was a private music instructor for more than 10 years. So yes, you can. And it's really easy to do organized sports outside of school. In fact, you could do it for free. You could just have all the kids meet up at the park, which you already paid for with your taxes, and play football with each other. It's or play soccer. Soccer requires so little in the way of equipment. It's really an easy sport. Like there's the AYSO stuff that's really cheap. You could totally do organized sports outside of school. It's not even a question. It used to be that certain sports you could only do them outside of school, like baseball and soccer. You could only do outside of school because there was no organized baseball and soccer in the schools. Next one, political and cultural indoctrination. This is one of the products that's produced jointly with education. So this was the explicit purpose of the Prussian model, which is what our system's based off of. We call it the Prussian model. The point of the Prussian model is not to educate per se. It's to develop and condition the attitudes and behaviors that are necessary to maintain a citizen army or to have a unified culture. Now, you can make a point for this as a good or a bad thing. So I'll try to take a neutral stance on this. If you have a bunch of people from a lot of different places, they go into school, you indoctrinate them to be an American, to have the values, to believe in the mythology, and to have the behaviors that are conducive with American culture. The problem is that you set up the system to do that, and then control of the system moves from people who want to do that to people who use it to indoctrinate kids into leftist ideology, which is to undo the American mythology, undo the American system, undo American behaviors, undo American beliefs, and to specifically tell the kids that they're bad. And I was definitely on the beginning wave of that. Kids now are completely jaded and disenfranchised. They're like, yeah, America's bad. That's all I've heard my whole life. You talk to teenagers now, they're like, yeah, America's awful. Why are we even living here? It's because they've had teachers teach them about how bad America is in history classes and stuff, and English in every class for a decade, So the role of schools to make good citizens, what that is, it's up to those in power. So now it's run by leftists. So if you're on the right, you should not want public schools to reopen because that particular mission is working against you. Now, if you went to the homeschooled thing, all of that happens in what I would call the optimate way. The natural way is not to have an institution run by a large state determine what cultural practices should be passed on to the next generation, but the community itself. Problem is now is that we have communities that aren't American. They're explicitly not American. They don't even speak English in the community. So they're not going to transfer any quote, American values, and they're not going to transfer beliefs in American mythology at all. So you're kind of in this situation where balkanization is already here, and it's also inevitable. So anyway, that's one of the products. Political, cultural indoctrination. Number 5, money for the Democratic Party. So schools are money mills that funnel money directly to the Democratic Party through a couple of means. But people do not understand how this happens because they have never really investigated it, and teachers are not upfront about this. No one's really upfront about this. So union dues just go to the Democrat Party. This is something you need to know. 90%, when I was a teacher, 90% of my union dues went directly to political contributions, most of them unspecified directly to the Democratic Party. And because it's a union, it can donate as much money as it wants to. There is no upper limit to how much unions can give to the Democrat Party. So 1,000, it's a little bit short of 1,000 when I was teaching. It was like $990. But we'll just round up to 1,000. $1,000 per teacher. Doesn't matter how much salary they make. If they make $38,000 a year, $1,000 of it is going to the union. So $1,000 per teacher goes to the union. 90% of it goes to the Democrat Party. And that's pretty much in every single school across the nation. There's no union that I'm aware of that donates a single dime to the Republican Party. So who pays teacher salaries? Well, the taxpayers do. So really what schools do is they tax people, take the tax money, pay teachers with it because the salary is actually the biggest expense, and then they get the Democratic Party gets a kickback from that. So really, you're taking tax money and just giving it to the Democrat Party directly, not directly, but indirectly. You're having to go through a couple steps. It's laundering money for the Democrat Party. So your property taxes are going to pay Democrats. That's what you got to know. $900 basically for every teacher at your school is going to the party who hates you if you're a Republican. So, number 6 is social conditioning. This is a little bit different than indoctrination when I'm talking about mythology. Social conditioning is the structure of school is designed to condition children to follow rules, to obey authority, and to seek social status rewards that are given by the authorities. So this is explicitly what socialization means in the Prussian system. It doesn't mean making friends. Parents think socialization means I send my kid to school and he makes friends. Of course he makes friends. He's around kids. But really the time he has to make friends is just recess. So he has 45 minutes a day to just talk to his friends and make friends and play with them. Rest of the day, he's in a little desk doing what the teacher wants him to do and behaving the way the teacher wants him to behave. If he misbehaves, he has to pull his card, or he gets punished, he gets detention. If he behaves, he gets a reward. And I've talked about this with grades. Grades are not indicative of your knowledge of a subject at all. They are very tangentially, at best, related to your knowledge of the subject matter. What grades do represent is your ability to conform to the expectations of the institution. So homework is a big part of that. Did you go home and do your extra work for your class? Yes, you pass the class. You get a C or better. No, you fail, right? That has nothing to do with knowledge. Not turning in homework has nothing to do with your skills or knowledge at all. In fact, there's kids who fail who have A+ test averages all the time, because they just don't do homework, or they go home to a chaotic home environment where the parents don't make them do homework and they just fail. Even though they have find knowledge, or they get lower grades than usual. So that straight A kid really is not the smartest kid in school. In fact, statistically speaking, is definitely not. He's the kid who adheres to the institutional norms the best. So you get a bunch of little rewards, and teachers do this all the time. It's part of classroom management. You reward the behavior you want, you punish the behavior you don't want, and you just run through that schedule and that system to get people to do what you want them to do. So it's social conditioning. So when you leave the school environment, you go out into the work environment where you're just going to obey your employer and not think for yourself at all. So that's what they do. Number 7 is providing jobs to the clerical class. This is a little bit of a socialist argument, but the bourgeoisie gets a bunch of free jobs from the public school system. These are people who probably would not have a job, a clerical job, if the school didn't exist. Teachers, administrators, they're all college educated. They're part of like the bourgeoisie. So the schools provide additional jobs for them. What's somebody going to do with a history degree? The answer is teach history. What's somebody going to do with an English degree? The answer is teach English. What's somebody going to do with a music degree? The answer is teach music. So it provides jobs for the clerical class, which is very important. That's why the clerical class is so for it. The middle class, the upper middle class, is really for public education because that's where their jobs are. They either have a job there, or their friend has a job there, or their sister has a job there. Somebody they know, if you're in that middle class, has a job at a public school. So you got to keep public schools open so that the clerical class has lots of cushy jobs. So there's seven other products of public schools, and these are the ones that people actually care about when they're actually having arguments. You gotta, if you're having a conversation with someone, you gotta strip away like, do we actually have to send the kids to school? You know, what do you think that they need to go to school for? They need to, and it's going to end up being one or some of, or all of these. You're probably not going to have someone argue that the Democrat Party needs money, that's why kids have to go to school, but that's definitely a product of what's going on there. Okay. I remember having to have a certain mindset when I went to school, mainly acting like a liberal leftist. That way you wouldn't fail in certain classes. Yeah, you got to give the answers that they want. You know, the teacher wants certain ones. You know that Francis Bellamy, the creator of the Pledge of Allegiance, was a socialist? I did know that. And I actually don't really like the Pledge of Allegiance. It fits into one of those things there, which is like the political indoctrination, which I'm a little uncomfortable with because that's not the role of the state, you know, the state level of government. But more than that, how could you pledge allegiance to an object? I pledge allegiance to the flag? No, I pledge allegiance to the republic. Well, you know, I come from a religious background as a Mennonite that we don't make pledges. You know, that was something that was considered very bad, was to swear upon God or the Bible or make pledges. You want your yes to be yes and your no to be no, and there's reasons for that. First of all, there are spiritual consequences to breaking an oath. But also, you don't want to bind yourself to future, like you don't want to pledge allegiance to a government that could change in the future. You know, you want your allegiance to be to God, to those things which aren't changing, your principles maybe. You know, you swear an oath to uphold the Constitution shouldn't be it's not the equivalent of an oath to obey the government no matter what. Do you know what I mean? So, would you mind doing a video sometime on the difference between capitalism and corporatism? I think I have. It's called, I think it's just called it corporations. Yeah, I think I did one already on that. I was homeschooled until I was educated enough to teach myself. From that point, I've been autodidact. I didn't get socialized, but it kept me from getting socialismized. Yes. So, but, you know, okay, we want kids to play with other kids. Take them to the playground if they're homeschooled. Right? My son doesn't go to preschool. Back before this corona business, took him to the playground every day. And even during it, we went to our neighbor's house. I have some cop friends that live around the corner from me. Some law enforcement officers, I should say, because they work in different capacities. And we just played at their house, right? Just like played in front of their house. And so my son always had contact with other kids every single day. Free play, longer than he would get at public school, because way more than 45 minutes, like 2 hours a day. You go in the morning, go at night. Just have your kids spend time with other kids. It gets harder when they become teenagers, but it's not impossible. That's where they're going to really learn their social skills. It's just getting great interactions with other kids. Filmgoer asks, why are people encouraging cancel culture? Because it's a way to punish your enemies. That's why. It's very toxic. It's bad for everyone involved. And the problem with political correctness is, even if you're on the left or you're a centrist or whatever, and I know I'm a right-wing guy, so just take this with a grain of salt, but if you're on the left, those goalposts will move and you will find yourself on the wrong side of them. You'll find yourself being criticized for things that were acceptable positions 10 years ago. This is the big problem with it too, is that eventually everyone gets canceled. And it's also one of the reactions to the right is like, once the left starts to cancel itself, you just step back and let it happen until everybody wisens up and stops doing it. You just kind of let it run its course if it's directed inward, because that's what's going to wake people up from doing it. I'm not a big believer in like the right actively trying to cancel the left. I don't think it works very often. And the only case where I can think of where maybe it did work was with James Gunn, the director of the Guardians of the Galaxy movies. They got him fired, but then he just got rehired after everything died down. Disney just rehired him to continue working on his movie. So the long-term effect for trying to turn that strategy around was probably nil. It was probably a temporary setback. Really, we should allow people to hold opinions and not have their employment be contingent upon having the right opinions. Sorry. I know you said you don't like the French Revolution, but maybe a purge of the upper elite classes are needed now and then. Otherwise, they turn into modern-day celebs. That is such a loaded thing to even try to talk about. There's the French Revolution is a super interesting historical event. It's something that I do want to do more study of it, because I haven't really read anything about it in quite a while. Catholic churches were desecrated. Nuns were turned out. There was a war on religion that happened as part of that. And the truth is that the French Revolution was led by certain members of the upper classes. It wasn't a proletariat revolution at all. Rather, it was led by wealthy individuals, just like the American Revolution was led by wealthy individuals as well. So the people who were purged were just some of the elites, and the other elites really intended to take charge and make it their own society. And you had a bunch of things that emerged from that. I don't want to go into it forever, because you could there's so much to it. But if you go far back, all the way back to the Roman Republic, you see that starting with Sulla, you have the same thing. You have purges of certain political factions, because there was such a need for the people to feel like there was one government. So Sulla started to purge everybody who was part of the populares. He was an Optimate. And so all his political enemies that had arranged armies against him, he had them killed or exiled. And so all of the political enemies had to be either exiled or like put to death. And it set up Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar was originally like on the hit list, but he ended up being out of Rome during that time and didn't end up getting caught up in Sulla's purge, and ended up becoming setting up all the pieces for the first imperial government. But there was the Roman Republic was in such a political crisis that something had to happen, and Sulla was that solution, and it did preserve the Republic a little bit longer. Ultimately, it just kicked the can down the road, and a figure like Julius Caesar rising up in the same manner as Sulla, but not relinquishing his power the way Sulla did, was really inevitable at that point. And it had to do with the military changes that happened, not so much the conflict at the time was over things that you wouldn't think would be that big a deal compared to the stuff that happened later, but it was a big deal. They were going to, there was land reform attempts, because what was happening over time was you had the Pareto distribution of emerging, where 20% of the population was owning all the land. And they wanted to redistribute the land. Eventually they did. And then it just happened again, is that the citizen soldiers had their land. They ended up selling the land. And you just had that Pareto distribution happen all over again, where the patrician class was owning 80% of everything. How are you doing on your recovery? I'm okay. My voice is starting to get out here. How frequently do you check your email? I haven't checked it in a while. I've been really bad, but I haven't been at my computer much. I've been like outside of my computer. I got an air conditioner in here, though, and that's really nice. So it's not like 1,000,000 degrees in here, and I can like kind of turn it down a bit. Get a little cool in here. All right. So COVID in schools. What time is it? 7 o'clock. Oh, real quick one. Why we don't object to Trump's secret police? I made a post about this. Libertarian Party started putting out a bunch of basic mainstream media garbage about... I don't like the Libertarian Party, even though I would consider myself a libertarian, at least for the federal level of government. I'm a libertarian for sure. About how evil it was that the DHS were policing the streets of Portland and protecting the buildings. Why didn't we care? Why didn't the right care about these? They're not secret police. They're clearly labeled who they are. There's nothing secret about them. So they're lying right away. But why don't we care? Well, the answer is, first of all, the people who are being policed hate us and want us dead, and they would want to use the police against us. So there's really no reason. They're really getting what they prefer. They prefer to have a police state used against the enemies of the state. They just want to be in control of the state, and they're suddenly shocked that the state might turn against them. They're getting what they prefer. So that's that. They don't care. They would want to use the police against the other side. In fact, that's what they're doing, is they're using violence. Now, that's the other thing, is that the innocent people desperately wanted the police to step in and actually do their job. So the local police were not preventing the destruction of property, the loss of life, the violence. They weren't doing anything to prevent the loss of rights for the individuals that lived in Portland. So why would we care that a higher level of government decided to do what the lower level didn't? And so the point of talking about this from the optimist position is the optimist always asks not if, but by whom. Should we have this be illegal? The question is, who is regulating it, and how is it illegal, and who's deciding that? So, for instance, when it comes to police, if the local police aren't protecting the individual rights of the people in a community, does the federal government have the obligation? Well, first of all, do they have the capacity to step in? Are they allowed to come up from the higher level of government to the lower level of government to fix what's dysfunctional at the lower level of government? And then the second one is, do they have the obligation to do it? Because obviously you want policing to be local because it's accountable to the people around you, right? Our local police live around us. So they're policing their neighbors. Likewise, local laws are controlled by the people who are local. And the more local the government, the more control you have over that. So obviously your family is like a tiny little government. The parents are in charge and the kids must do what the parents say. And it would be wrong to cut out the authority of the parents and have the government come in and walk into your house and tell the kids what to do. Obviously. But what if the parents aren't doing their job as parents? Does that mean another level of government? Can local people come in and take those kids away? We have CPS. Obviously, we think if one level is failing, you have a higher level which can step in if necessary. So the DHS is just doing what the innocent desperately wanted, which is to have their property protected, to have local police stopping bandits from stealing and destroying everything. That's why we don't care about that. Did your sense of smell return? Very barely. I think it's going to come back pretty quick, though. My wife's hasn't, though. Has there ever been an effective revolutionary war started primarily by a lower class and successfully created a better government system after winning? I can't think of one. Waylon, I can't think of one, but there might be. I'm not going to say there's never one, because there might be one somewhere, but I can't think of one really. And I think one of the reasons is in order to equip a rebellion, physically equip them with arms, you need wealth, you need money. Even slave revolts. There were slave revolts in Sicily during the Roman Empire. They were never successful because the better equipped, better manned, better trained Roman legions would eventually come down and restore order and put the slaves back where they belonged. Right? They would eventually put the slaves back to work or kill them all, or they'd quell the rebellion. So you can see this with even, say, the Bolshevik rebellion. The Bolsheviks were, in a large part, they weren't Russian, right? They were largely made up of atheistic Jews. There was lots of them were bourgeois in a sense, and they believed in that revolution and were able to execute it. I think you had wealthy people. I don't know. I'd have to look a little bit deeper in the Chinese Revolution, but you had a civil war with nationalists, and both of them were pretty well equipped by other sides. So I don't know. I don't know if there's been one where just like the lower classes were able to rise up and have a revolution on their own without either significant external support. Like the American Revolution was led by the wealthy, and you had support from France. So the Chinese Revolution was heavily supported by the USSR, if I remember correctly. And does that count? I don't know. I don't think it does. Moreover, it's led by intellectuals. The intellectual classes lead these communist revolutions. The clerical classes are the ones who lead the revolutions. They led the French Revolution. And maybe you get those lower classes to kind of go along with you, but I don't know. If I look at the fallout of the communist revolution of Russia, man, there was such huge loss of life of Russians that you don't even know about it today. Most people are never educated as to what the gulags were like, or how many people died, and what Stalin's purges were like. And it's not just Stalin. Lenin was terrible and evil with this stuff too. Just the loss of life that happened because of the communist revolution in Russia is just awful to think about. Do you think that there's an overlap between cancel cult and lockdown crats? Yeah. Hard to not think it's not affirmative action. Same animal, different fur, both force production to go a particular way regardless. Yeah. I think it's definitely, the overlap has to do with the ideology, right? Like, if you can, so think about most of the people who are really in favor of these super heavy lockdowns, like nobody's going to leave the house and you can't go to the barber. It's like, most of this stuff is avoided by common sense, just like with the flu. It's like, are you sick? Yeah, I'm sick. Okay, well, don't go to the barber. Have you been around sick people? I've been around sick people. Okay, don't go to the barber. Have you been around sick people? I've been around no sick people. Okay, you can go to the barber. What? Use some common sense. Have some concern for the other people around you. That's all that has to happen. But the people who are asking for it, they don't lose money when the lockdown happens. So the governor of California doesn't lose a dime when the economy crashes. The clerical class doesn't lose any money when the economy crashes. They're paid for by the government. And as far as they're concerned, it's fine because they might get a bonus. I don't have to go to work now. I don't have to go to my work in my government office. I can work from home now. And why is everyone complaining? They want grandma to die because they want to keep their barbershop open. They don't want grandma to die. They want to do the business that they've invested in and, exist, go on living, right? Like what, the extreme level of lockdowns is just, it's just way over the top. But it does expose something. And I think the masks actually expose an interesting thing in our culture, which is, I'm going to look across the ocean at Japan. The virus is sweeping, it arrives in Japan, and basically it's like, we're all going to wear masks. And everyone just does it. There's no one who's like, I refuse to wear a mask. That's oppressive to my rights. They're just like, okay, we gotta all come together and do this to prevent the virus from spreading. Because they're culturally unified. They're much more culturally unified than the U.S. it's not even an issue. Like, everybody does something because everybody does something. It's kind of like if everybody wore shoes, everybody wears shoes. It's like, do you need a law that forces people to wear shoes? The answer is no. Everyone just wears shoes. Or you go to a store and it's like, no shirt, no shoes, no service. I guess we got to wear shoes, you know? So very mild social enforcement makes everybody wear shoes. You can do the same thing. I mean, the same thing can happen with masks, but we're so atomized that there's people who, it's part of some bigger narrative. Masks don't work, or they're only partially effective and therefore they're stupid, or people are wearing the wrong masks, and all of those aren't really arguments. Really, everybody should have just done it because everybody cares about everybody else, but that's really not where we're at. So the state says, well, damn it, we're going to make everybody do what we want them to do because people are atomized, so we're going to just make it top down. And all the rebellion naturally happens because top down organization, it rarely works, but it's always oppressive because you're always doing things counter to the nature of what people are used to doing them on. Rather, you want the inversion of that. You want things that go from the bottom up. So it starts with the family. The family is the central authority in what I call the optimate philosophy. Family is it. It's the main unit of government is the family. Me and my wife, we rule over our children in our household. We decide the rules for our children. We decide the rules for our property. We decide the rules for our pets. And we go to the next level, extended family. Extended family negotiates the rules there, and if there's a failure of one family in the extended family, we come in and we help take care of it. Mike lost his job. Well, we're going to help his family because we care about his kids too. Boom. We don't need welfare because we have a family. My kids don't need welfare because they have a family. They have me and my wife taking care of them. And likewise, we redistribute our income, right? It's like socialism in a tiny little sphere. But the further away you go from that, the more unnatural authoritarianism gets, to where a state bureaucrat who you can't call, you can't contact, you can't negotiate with him at all, tells you have to act a certain way. People don't like that, and they naturally don't like it. But if you imagine if all your neighbors got together and said, we're all going to wear masks, you'd probably be like, even if you thought masks are stupid, you'd be like, I like my neighbors though, so I'll wear one. I'll wear one to fit in. It's like if everybody decides to do something, you'll just do it to fit in, even if you don't like it. So, I'm trying to think if there's something I don't like having short hair. But if I need a job, I'll cut my hair because that's like the standard. Who cares? It grows back. Maybe you don't like, I don't know. I'm trying to think of something that somebody doesn't like. Maybe you maybe you like to, I don't know, have sex in public. Because I saw this thing that was like, queers need to be able to have sex in public. This is a queer issue. It's like, no one needs to have sex in public because no one wants to see that. I should be able to walk down the street without my kids having to witness sexual intercourse, right? So maybe you like to have sex in public, but you don't do it because everybody will be upset with you if you do it, even if there's no law against it, right? Maybe you like to be drunk all the time, but you don't drink in public because you'll get taken to the drunk tank. People don't want you to be drunk in public. Maybe you like to smoke, but you don't smoke and blow smoke in people's faces, your neighbors' faces, because they don't like it. And you like your neighbors. So you act with courtesy towards your neighbors, the people that you actually like. So social control of behavior is the optimate way. And whenever you get away from that social thing and it becomes very top down, people are going to rebel. It's like a natural thing. People aren't wrong to question the authority of the government to be able to lock everything down. They're right to do that. Now, just as an example, I live in California and the governor's like, no churches. No one can go to church. That shouldn't be his decision. If you have a bishop, your bishop for the diocese is like, we're going to have church happen this way because of this infection. Well, he can make that decision. That's his natural realm of influence. That bishop's realm of influence is that diocese. That's his normal authority. It's his appointed authority by those above. It's his recognized authority by those below. So it's natural that he would make that decision. But let's say some of the priests there are like, well, we disagree and we think this. Well, those priests can call the bishop, The bishop is in charge of, whatever it's going to be, however many, 10 priests or whatever are reporting to him. They can call him and talk to him on the phone or go meet with him and say, we should do it this way. And so there's naturally an up and down that actually happens because the bishop is, of course, he's interacting with this priest. Now, he has the authority to make the final decision, but people can give input, or the deacons, or the people who just go to Mass. They can, of course, give their opinion on that. So if the church decides to have Mass in a different way from normal because they want to avoid getting people sick and they care about that, that's their normal and proper realm of influence and authority. You may not like it in your church, but you'll accept the authority of the bishop to make those decisions, even if you disagree with them. And you'll probably adhere to that because you want to be part of the church community. The problem is when you go above that, you go outside of what the natural realm of authority is, and then it becomes an oppressive state action. And it's appropriate to feel like you're being oppressed. The only successful lower class rebellion that comes to mind barely counts. The crisis of the 3rd century. Oh, yes. And that one, really, you're right. I don't know if that really counts. After Claudius II dies, his brother proclaims himself emperor. Palmyra goes to Zenobia. Gaul declares itself independent. The army promotes a low-born cavalry commander, Aurelian. My daughter's named Aurelia, by the way. It means gold. Yeah. The Asian countries seem to value society over individualism. True. Hate to say it, but I think this could be an advantage that China has over the U.S. I think it is. But it's really not. The problem is we think individual or society. There's so many steps between individual and society. It's not really individual, it's family. So individual, family, extended family, clan and community, locality or city-state. Above that, nation, which is a ethnic group or a group of people that have one culture. And then above the nation, the supernation or empire. That's the way things go up. One of the reasons that the Roman Empire lasted as long as it did is that it really respected this division. The Roman family had a specific realm of influence. The patriarch of the Roman family, it was his duty to oversee very specific things, and the state didn't interfere in the functioning of the family. Likewise, you had regional governors, and they even had local rulers. You had local political groups that ran their locality in the way that functioned for them, and they paid tribute to Rome. They got the protection of the Roman legions. They were ultimately subject to Roman authority, and they didn't really counteract that. But they, depending on what region you're in, it was a different culture. Things were run differently. The government might function differently, depending on where you're at, because that was their realm of influence. And I think that's one of the reasons that the empire lasted as long as it did, is that it had a strong central authority, but that central authority wasn't exercised over all of its parts continuously the way it is today. The way of what we really think of extreme authoritarianism, like communist Russia or something, which is where the party, the main thing, is pointing downward all the way to the individual. And that's really oppressive. Like, most people would not say that they're oppressed by their parents. And if they are, eventually they get old enough to just free themselves from that oppression. Aurelian sweeps Claudius II's brother Quintilius away, then destroys the Gallic and Palmyrian empires, does a pretty good job restoring order. Restitutor Orbis. Roman history is great. There's so much stuff there. Follow up on masks. They can be effective if you are sick to transmit less virus, but they're not effective for COVID prevention. Even N95 masks don't stop transmission. You're engaging in what I call binary thinking. So nothing's 100%, but barriers work. That's why doctors still wear them. It's why doctors are wearing gloves and things. Barriers do work, but even if they don't work at 100%, you don't just abandon them. It'd be like saying, well, soldiers wear bulletproof vests and they die anyway, so clearly bulletproof vests aren't effective. Well, they're effective, but they're not going to be 100% effective against everything, obviously. There's so much to talk about here. All right. Let's go ahead and let's play some games before we go. I'll play for a few minutes. My voice is starting to get really tired, so I'm not gonna push it too hard. Roman Empire also lasted because it was regularly refreshed by revolutions. True, won by strongmen: Caesar Augustus, Aurelian, Constantine. Yeah, that's true. It wasn't one style of government forever. It changed and evolved. It's true. Very true. My mask, I don't inhale CO2. My masks, I wear them for yard work and stuff too, just because they're respirators. I have stacks of them. I told people to buy all this stuff like well before everything hit. People don't listen to me. You should listen to me more often, because I usually have a good bead on stuff like this, and why you should have it. Cloth masks obviously are going to be less effective than a real respirator, but that doesn't mean it's zero effective. Zero effect. And I mean, we could see the large scale effect. They were effective in Japan. Why aren't they effective here? They're less effective because they're not done with the same regularity. The more regular you put in a preventative measure, the more effective it's going to be. Doesn't mean that it's like zero effect, or like you shouldn't wash your hands because you could still get sick even if you wash your hands. Like, no, you could, but you're going to reduce. It's not a binary. You got to get out of the binary thinking. All right. Let's see here. Oh boy. Okay. There's that sweet music. I love it. Should play Helltaker. It's funny, it's free, and it's only 30 minutes. Oh, I like that. 30 minutes. 30-minute game. You know, I loved the original Portal because it was short. You know, the original Portal was a short game. It was just right. Like, you played it and you got done and you're like, that was a great gaming experience. I played Portal 2, and Portal 2 was longer, but it actually felt too long. And at the same time, I was upset about how quickly I was done with it, considering I paid $60 for it. I was like, this was not a $60 game. This was like a $20 game. Is the game going to show up? There it goes. All right. We're good to go. Let's see where we were. Do you not think there might be other factors for low rates of infection? Absolutely, there probably are. It's not one thing. That's just it. And you're always operating in the unknown, so you always want to go with what's orthodox, what's been proven to work. And barriers do work at preventing infection or reducing transmission. Let me see, where am I supposed to go here? What's my current quest? Okay. So, we get to go meet Lucien Lachance. Now, you can totally cheese this by just sneaking in the back door. I don't think I want to do that. Here we go.
Eliminator, you have served the Dark Brotherhood well in the short time you have been with us. Indeed, the rate of your advancement has been rather remarkable. Now the Black Hand itself is in need of your abilities. You must proceed with all haste to my private refuge in the ruins of Fort Farragut, located in the forest northeast of the Shadenhall Sanctuary. When you arrive, we will discuss the nature of your special assignment. I cannot stress to you enough the importance of your swift arrival at Fort Farragut. There are unseen powers working to unravel the very fabric of the Dark Brotherhood. The Black Hand is counting on you to prevent this disaster. Do not share the contents of this message with anyone at the Shadenhall Sanctuary, including Ochiva, and make no mention of your journey to Fort Farragut. Also, be warned, my refuge within Fort Farragut is guarded by denizens, who will attack any interloper on sight. Get through these rotting sentinels, and you will surely have earned the right to visit my private sanctum.
All right. My Lucien Lachance. Now, you can just sneak in the back and talk to him and like skip all the skeletons, but I don't think I'm going to do that. Oh, I'm gonna die. 12 hours. Sounds good. Hardwick says the federal crackdown on protesters is a legitimate use of power under the non-aggression principle. Protesters initiated the aggression, so aggression to stop them is warranted. I agree. And if the local, properly authoritative people are not going to do it, can a higher level of government step in to do it? And my answer would be yes. The real question is, do they have an obligation? I think is the bigger question. And that's really the bigger political quandary of that. Do they have an obligation to step in and help? Or is it an option? And the option versus obligation, I think that it's very debatable. Now, I happen to believe that, if you're going to view rights as incorporated, and part of the purpose of a state is to protect rights, then if there's a failure in the lower level of government, the higher level of government has an obligation to come in and protect the rights of individuals, especially. Now, does that mean they have the obligation to come in and do anything they want to? No. I think it has to do with failures that are specifically reserved for, the states or the localities. And I think we're kind of set up that way. The 10th Amendment is all the other rights are reserved to the states. So that's the rights to see to their own policing and things like that. But if the police are unable to have or unwilling to have order, I think the federal government has an obligation to secure the welfare of those people. Yeah, I love this music too. If we can get up there and look. So, I think they have an obligation. Yeah, losing smell and taste was kind of rough, but I'm pretty sure it's going to come back. Because I'm already getting my sense of smell back. I think I'm going to be okay with that, but it does suck. Losing any sense, it'd be way worse to lose, I think, your sense of sight. I think going blind would be way worse, personally. Smell though, I think is important. I like smelling things. Alright, let me get this skeleton right there. Here he comes. Alright. Put on our raiment. Oh, I leveled up. Need to make a stronger drain spell. That's for sure. Oh, silver arrows. Those are good. Steel arrows, iron arrows, bone meal. I think I can sleep in Lucien's bed. I think he'll let me sleep in his bed. Actually, is that... No, it's 100%. Do you remember being sick? I've heard that COVID can cause memory loss. Some people hallucinate when infected. I remember it perfectly fine. I think you can have that with any kind of high fever. I think that's probably like a high fever thing. Because really high fevers can make you like that, make you really loopy. If I put the link in, you can put the link now at Hardwick and I'll just approve it in a second. And then people can just get it. All right. Do I want to pick the lock, or do I want to... Let's see, that one will shoot arrows at you. Look at the map. Is there like a chest up there or something else cool to get? I don't know. Let's find out. Smash this guy. Lots of arrows. One of the things you can do if you want to level up Mercantile is sell individual arrows. There's even mods that'll make it easy to sell individual arrows. Oh, there's a trip line here. There you go. Oh, thank you for the $5, Kaku. With what you said about obligation, should the individual obligate itself to arm themselves in tandem with government and state? I think all individuals should be armed. I don't know if that's an obligation. I would say it's an obligation because you have an obligation to your family, right? So I need to be armed because I have a duty to protect my family. I've elected to have a family. I've elected to have them in my house. Therefore, I have an obligation to them as well. I'd say if you're like just some dude, you're not obligated to arm yourself. I think there's other civics discussions as to like, how should I put this? Like you cede your right to use force to the government for the purposes of like civility. I don't really believe that because I don't believe in my philosophy is that there's really not a state per se. Like the state exists at multiple levels and in multiple different ways. So it's like, what exactly is the state? And why would you expect the state to just automatically treat you with justice? They wouldn't. The state obviously can't continually protect you either. And really, I'd say the purpose of policing is not to protect you. That happens kind of as an auxiliary way. Like the purpose of police is really to be involved with justice. That is to say, the purpose of police is to catch bad guys. That's the main purpose. And so if bad guys are off the street, it's safer, totally. And, if somebody's threatening property, like a big group of people, then that's appropriate police action, too. Oh, I'm just at this. I just walked around that door. Let's just keep going this way. Did you see the link? It's pending approval. Yeah, hold on. I should see it here. Maybe not. I don't see it. Sometimes it filters this stuff out automatically, unfortunately. Sorry. Yeah, I don't see it. Police don't have any obligation to protect you if it puts them in harm's way. I know that the courts have decided that, but that's a different discussion than the politics of whether they should. But I think it's really... they often do. The question is whether there's an obligation. They have the option, not the obligation. I think is what the courts have decided. You know, they can go in. They're not obligated to go in. And I think that kind of makes sense. Which is why I think everybody should be able to protect themselves. If you're in the UK, I don't know. Find a way to get a weapon. I didn't say that, but, you know. At least build a crossbow or something. Ice doesn't do a lot of damage to this guy. P. Manhart. Glad to see you back, David. Thanks for coming back. I'm playing Oblivion. Great. I've missed the clicky clacks and Oblivion sounds in the background. Take care. Never be afraid to defend yourself or your family. I'm defending myself from the skeleton. I think what's much more interesting right now is they arrested that lawyer who like stood in front of his house with an AR-15 to deter people. Like he didn't even shoot anybody, but they totally would have gone in and looted, I think. So basically, the state doesn't want you to use force to defend yourself. They want you to die instead. I don't believe that at all. Now I can actually repair these. Since I already leveled up, technically all of these armor skill ups will go to my next level. By the way. Where am I going? Going in here. I like these little shrine statues they have. Kind of cool looking. And that's if you fell down. You can proceed up that way. There's Lucien. LeChance.
I've been waiting for you, assassin. We have not spoken in some time.
Thank you for the super chat. I really do appreciate it.
Within the Dark Brotherhood. That is why I have sent for you. I'm afraid there is a situation. The time has come to test both your skill and your loyalty to Sithis. The Black Hand has learned that the Dark Brotherhood has been infiltrated. By whom and for what purpose we do not yet know. What we do know is that there is some link between the traitor and the Cheydinhall Sanctuary. The traitor has tainted that place beyond repair. It was learned that the traitor has been active for quite some time, since before you joined the Brotherhood, and absolves you of any suspicion.
Alright. Have you watched both Full Metal Alchemist and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood? I have. So which one do you like better? And what are your two favorite characters? I don't know who my two favorite characters are. So I like that the first one concluded. I like when things actually have a conclusion. I think this Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is overall a better made series in general. I just think it's superior. I think the micro of each episode is a little bit better. And I like that it has the actual story from the manga. And I think it's an interesting story and pretty well done. But I like that you could just watch the original Full Metal Alchemist series, the anime series, which has a different ending and just kind of goes on its own thing. I like that you can just watch that and like have it conclude and be done. So they're both cool. I'm trying to remember. I think the original one has the older cell animation, which I usually do prefer, but I think the Brotherhood still looks better. It's brighter and just in general looks better, even though it has that. I think they make them on computers now versus like the hand-drawn stuff. So I think I do like Brotherhood a little bit better. But the manga's great too. If you haven't read that, that's also, you could just pick up the manga or get it digitally or whatever.
I will serve you for time immemorial.
Oh, but I do. You have been selected by the Black Hand to perform the ancient rite known as purification. Everyone inside the sanctuary must die. You must break one of the tenets you have sworn to uphold. I know. This is an unexpected turn of events, but drastic measures must be taken. Ochiba, Vicente Valtieri, Antoinette Marie.
So the guy's wife was being kind of foolish the way she waved the gun at people, to be honest. It actually didn't have a firing pin in it. It was a prop from a case that the lawyer worked on. So even though, yeah, it was quite dangerous if it had been a real gun, it actually wasn't a real gun. But they took it, they put the firing pin back in it and charged her with a crime. So it wasn't operable. I think the AR-15 was. Yeah. So, but you're right.
Purification has been completed. Return to me here at Fort Farragut, and we will discuss your future. Now, take these special gifts.
Ooh.
They will help you greatly.
Special gifts.
One is a poisoned apple. The other, a unique scroll of summoning. Good luck, Silencer.
What's your thought on Vic Mignogna's voice work on Full Metal Alchemist? I watched the dubs of both of those, and I thought they were pretty good overall. I prefer subtitles in general, but I think at the time I watched them, subs weren't available or weren't easy to get. So I watched the dubs. I didn't mind them. I don't remember which one he was though, because I just don't keep up with it that much. There was a question I wanted to answer here. I don't remember what it was. Oh, what's your opinion on the college admission scandal? I don't really have one because I'm not sure which scandal you're talking about. It's a constant thing with scandals. The truth is, people think college is a scam anyway. So if people are scamming their way into college, I just don't care. College really doesn't deliver a strong value for most people. For most people, they get nothing out of it. The people who are trying to scam their way in, they view that degree as something that will get their kid special advantages. So of course they're going to do it. They're going to do whatever they can. $5 from Shinyogo. I really appreciate that. Hey David, thoughts on that 2016-17 Berserk anime with the bad CGI animation and pseudo 2D look? How in the world was it given the okay for release? I think it looks like ass. It's almost I can't watch it. I haven't been able to watch it. I think what they were doing, I've seen some YouTubers break it down, other Berserk fans, and they're like, I think that they just thought their tools would do more than they were going to do, and they thought they could do things faster than they could. So the whole job ended up being rushed on computers, ended up looking really bad as a result. So if I'm thinking of the one that you're thinking of, I think I'm thinking of like they did the Golden Age arc ones. Those were okay. Those really weren't bad overall. I didn't like them because I thought they cut too much story. But I'm thinking of these later ones where like the CGI is really bad. They thought the CGI would look like 2D, and they're trying to use cell shading techniques like what they would use when in a lot of say JRPG video games, and it just doesn't work out. They're trying to shoot the angles from the manga, and the manga is very cinematic. It just doesn't work out. The original anime from like the late 90s, 99 or whenever it came out, that one's good. And so I'll always recommend that one. Subtitled, preferably. I don't think the voice acting is very good. Quick thoughts on Christian black lady painting over Black Lives Matter memorial. Find a hilarity between left's reaction as if she defaced private property or a future historical landmark. More token than meaningful. Yeah, I mean, the difference between vandalism and a mural is entirely dependent on what the practical authority thinks of it. And so it's freaking graffiti by any standard that would be normal to write Black Lives Matter on a street or on a piece of public property. It'd be illegal. You go to jail. But because the practical authorities were like, no, we want to show support for it, they have the ability to tell law enforcement to not enforce the law. The laws being enforced or not is really up to the authorities. And so someone else comes in and defaces that. They haven't done anything different from any perspective. They've done nothing different. But all of a sudden it's a crime or it's bad because of the practical authorities. It has nothing to do with the law. But it is kind of telling. And so it's a good lesson, which is that, what does vandalism mean? It means whatever the person who can stop the buck says it means. What does the law mean? It means whatever the person who stops the buck says it means. And your best hope, it's kind of like, I don't have to submit to a search by a police officer, and then they search it anyway. And it's like, how did they do this? How did they violate the Constitution? It's like, because there's no magical rules stopping them from acting. The only thing you can hope for is that you get the evidence removed in a court at a later date. That's the only check against it. There's nothing that stops them in the moment from doing whatever they want. And so it's very telling, because that's exactly what we get with this Black Lives Matter mural, People, it's the exact same actions. It's actually somebody restoring the private property closer to its original everything, But totally different reactions, because it doesn't matter. The action doesn't matter. There's no legal standard. It's what the action means.
The apple has been treated with the most deadly poison.
Why do so many people consider it important for children to interact with other children? Because children really enjoy it. They learn how to negotiate and to deal with other people's needs, and they gain empathy from it, versus just going with adults, right? Like my son wants me to play Legos with him all the time. And I'm happy to play Legos with him in whatever capacity he wants. But if another kid gets in there, that kid actually may want to play with Legos differently than him. So my son has to learn how to negotiate with another person's wants and needs, versus dad who just wants to spend time with him. So he learns a different skill set by interacting with children.
The Dark Brother is an ancient old
It's really important, I think, that kids be able to spend that time learning how to deal with other people's wants and needs, not just their own. Mommy and daddy are very authoritarian. What mommy and daddy say goes, and you either get it or you don't. My son often tries to negotiate with us, like we do have that, but he's like, Dad, I think I'd like another cookie. I'd be like, you can't have cookies all day. What if I ate some cheese first, Dad? Eating cheese doesn't make the cookie better for you. You should eat the cheese anyway.
With a purification, we cleanse the dark brotherhood of mistrust and treachery.
With kids, it's like, we have 2 cookies. I want your cookie. Will you trade me? How about I give you some of my cookie and I take some of yours because of different cookies? That kind of negotiation, that it's really good for kids to do it. And because kids are on the same intellectual and emotional level, it's a very quick way to get to what they want. Plus, my son just loves other kids. Kids like other kids. They just do.
You, of course, recall Rufio, the feeble old man I sent you to kill when we first met.
Babies' lives matter in the street in front of Planned Parenthood. They do. But, kids shouldn't interact with their parents, too. They learn a lot of skills from their parents, and they transfer it to their peers. They learn skills from their peers. This is why people think, you go to, you go to public school and then you learn how to make friends. Not exactly.
Make haste. The sanctuary must be purified if this treachery is to be undone.
All right. Nothing here counts as being stolen, so you can just take everything out of here if you want. There's a barrel full of poison apples around here somewhere. Oh, it's this one. These are really useful for other things, too. Like, you can kill lots of people with these poison apples. Whoa! Oh, no! There we go. 10 of them bad boys. And these will recharge, by the way. You can come back later and get 10 more. Let's see here. Novice. Get some of these poisons off the table. Human heart. Sweet. Alright. Bones.
I speak. Why?
Okay. Now, save this and let's sleep. We can sleep in his bed. He's so nice letting us sleep in his bed. I remember interacting with other kids back before I went to school. Kids my age from parents, friends. They're still my friends to this day. Yeah, I have friends from when I was like 3 or 4. Glad you're feeling better. Thank you, Robert Frey. Let's see here. Should really sleep for like 20... Let's do 19 hours. We'll sleep for a long time. Young male children that aren't properly socialized are called criminals. Trade my tuna sandwich for your pudding cup. No way! All right. Endurance. Speed, yes. And then we have our choice of whatever's left. I always skip personality because it's just not that useful. You do luck. 5-4 and luck. All right. A warm, gentle breeze. Oh, yes. More vampire skills. Look at him. Now, let's go ahead and put our... Now, you can do, like, sneaky assassination of all your friends from the sanctuary, or you can do just, like, mow them down. And this one will go, why, brother? Why? Why did you kill us?
Because I wanted to.
You find someone to repair this stuff. I need to repair my stuff. Oh, you know what? Who trains this stuff? Is it Coral? Or is it I think it's Anvil. No, it's Coral. Go to Coral. What's your opinion on 6th scale modeling, such as Hot Toys or Sideshow collectibles? I don't know anything about them, really. I mean, if that's what you like to do, then that's great. I don't really collect stuff. I'm not really a collector. I have like assortments of things, but not really collections of any kind. So, I don't know. So it's up to you what you do with those. You hear about that kid in juvie that they forced to take estrogen? I had not heard this. You know, but this is part of the significant hazard of believing that children can be transgendered.
Get back, you filthy beast!
Is that you can permanently alter their physiology by screwing with their hormones well before they can consent to such a thing.
I don't understand what Miss Stell is doing with Melintus and Chris. I mean,
Are you not feeling well? Get back, you...
Oh, you know what?
Oh.
I need to drink some blood. I'm gonna lose another Dave real quick. I gotta drink some blood.
What is it?
Otherwise, the guy won't talk to me.
So
go 17 hours. I had almost no contact with children when I was growing up. I think it helped me make me more imaginative and philosophical due to how much time I spent reading, thinking, and playing alone. Kids do tons of pretend play, and pretend play is really good for kids. It's really good for kids to play with other kids. I think it's schooling that beats the creativity out of them, not anything else. And when they play, they come up with all kinds of crazy imaginative things. They're constantly synthesizing and constantly doing new things. Here we go. Let's feed. Drink some blood. My younger sister had gender dysmorphia issues when she was a teen. She's married with 3 children now. Yep, I mean, it's not that uncommon. I mean, it's still uncommon, but it happens. People change their mind about things like that, or they get over it, or they have counseling that helps them get over it. Forgot to unload some stuff here. Forgot that weighs a lot. Get rid of 14 pounds here somehow. Okay. Come back and get those items in a minute. Let's see what we're going to make here. Now you can actually, once you get a high enough alchemy, you can turn the poison apples just into straight up super powerful poison. You can make single ingredient potions. Oh, resist fire, that's cool. Damage fatigue. Oh man, I got way heavier. We'll just put a bunch of this in there. Anything that's kind of heavy. See, these are really light. Yeah, this is 5 pounds. There we go. Alright, now we'll come back and get those later and sell them. Now we can go get our training done and repair our gear. Love this like clarinet line in this little song. To clarify, it was a 16-year-old male, and they told him it was to fix a heart problem. Told him they'd write him up if he didn't take it. Truth was, it was an experiment they wanted. Yeah, I haven't heard of this. You can't even be a vampire for a couple hours without getting sun damaged.
Hello. Pay attention, and you can learn a lot. Knowledge is power.
Training
Knowledge
armor.
Is the key to knowledge is power.
There we go.
For the right price,
Repair that item for 34 gold. 31 gold. Needs to get prepared really cheap. Alright.
have a look at my wares. I'm sure there's something to suit you.
See if there's anything I can sell her. Nothing. Nothing. I guess I can sell that.
Thank you.
Alright.
Bye.
Okay. And I gotta go wait around for nighttime again.
Hi there. How are you?
Let's get that stuff out of the chest if I can. There it is. Bum bum. Are these NPG shows on a particular day? Always at Wednesday at 6 o'clock. Always Wednesday 6 Pacific is when I do these shows. So I always do them at the same time. So yeah, I always do these at the same time. Always Wednesday, 6 o'clock. Missed a couple weeks because I was sick. And well, first I had that corneal abrasion, so like I couldn't see out of my left eye. It was all swollen and ugly, and I would have had like tears like streaming down my face the whole show. It would have been awful. Would have looked like crap. Now I just kind of sound like crap, but whatever. NewPub Gaming. That's what I called it. Because I was NewPub Talk. But people weren't really tuning in a lot to that one. So I changed the format to more just me talking about crap. People seem to like it better. So I'm not going to complain either way. Alright. Time to go kill everyone. If I can. Let's see if we can do it. They all must die. Now, I think we could actually kind of game the system a little bit here, too. Actually, before I do that, I should probably go sell some potions. Let's go over Market District. Hopefully I don't die on the way there. Not sure if you like RTS games, but there's a fan project to remake Battle for Middle-earth that looks really good. I liked RTS games back in, like, the 90s and 2000s, and then I just didn't really play much after that.
It is good to have a look at my wares.
I think like people got too good at them. I don't think I'm good enough at RTS to like play them.
You drive.
Don't need these. This is a 0-8 potion. I don't know how I did that.
You got a great deal then. And
I hear my dog barking. A little heavy.
a fine transaction.
Water breathing. Paralysis is good. Some of the stuff's useful. Sell those.
Another?
Let's make even more potions and sell them. Easy way to level up
Please
your...
return soon. It's always a pleasure to see you.
Burden poisons. Those are fun. They almost never work, though. So they're kind of a... If you can get a really high burden spell, then like you can freeze enemies in place. They won't be able to do anything. Which is pretty funny. Now feather. That's pretty useful. Daedra hearts. Whoa! That's a weird combination. Mix two hearts together and shock shield. That's cool. Shock shield with the human heart. Restore fatigue. Strawberry. Sweet roll. Tomato. Scamp skin. Is this gonna... I don't have anything to mix with the scamp skin. Alright, I think we're done there. So...
It is good to... I offer the finest goods and...
What are your
most
thoughts on the
in
Mississippi
all
government's
cities.
decision to remove the Mississippi flag that has the Confederate battle flag on it? I don't know. You know, it's their thing. It's easy to get riled up about that, but if state government wants to do it, they're going to do it. They're maybe doing it for bad reasons, of course, but, you know, whatever.
That's more than I'd usually pay.
It's not that important to me, you know. And obviously it's not their original flag because it didn't have that on there until after the Civil War, because the battle flag didn't exist until the Civil War. So it's not even their original flag. You know. They probably adopted it as kind of an FU to the North. Like, we could still choose what we want on our flag. Yes, you can. They could choose what they wanted on their flag in 1866. They can choose it today, I
good
guess.
Price for a good cut.
Or scamp skin. Is it heavy? Yeah, it's pretty heavy. Let's just sell the scamp skin. Clear out our bags a little bit. I think you can manipulate what you do with
Please return.
the guy who buys and sells stuff in the Dark Brotherhood. I think you could buy stuff from him and then kill him and get the gold back, but I'm not sure. Where's the inn? There it is. Just wait around till nightfall. How about sports teams changing their nicknames because a small group of people choose to be offended by them? Again, I think it's kind of dumb, but whatever. I don't care about the Washington Redskins at all. I have no attachment to them. So, it's whatever they're going to do. Question, Final SC. You heard of Bugs Bunny being a rapist canon due to a ridiculous copyright claim on a YouTube parody, Wabbit Season by Meat Canyon? I haven't heard of this. I haven't heard of this at all, actually. So I have no idea. Thank you for the super chat, though. There is a Bugs Bunny cartoon where at the end he's in blackface with a bunch of other black guys in blackface doing a minstrel show. And you can still look it up on YouTube, I think. Did you ever finish Final Fantasy VII? I did not, because I was not able to stay up and keep playing it, but I will stream more of it soon, probably.
Yes?
I don't know, you were just standing there.
I'm Irene Metric. If you needed to know more, you'd already know. Farewell.
Okay. Where am I with Thieves Guild? Let me check that. Okay. Yeah, alright. Let's head over there and then we can... Your horse is stabled outside the city gates. Oh yeah, I have Prior Mabel's horse. Let's see if Armand is here yet. See a green thing. 2 hours. Your character has the skin tone of spiral notebook paper. He's a vampire. I like this melody.
Hello there.
The crickets. Too bad real life doesn't have this. Like you just walk right outside and cool music starts playing. It's too bad.
I'm glad you stopped by. I have a situation that you might be able to help with.
Ah, special.
The Gray Fox has asked me to take care of a problem, and I'm putting you on it. Hieronymus Lex actually collected taxes from everyone living here on the waterfront. Your job is to recover...
This is a good little Robin Hood thing. It's like we're recovering the evil taxes from the evil government. I love it.
The people of the waterfront are very poor. Traditionally, the city has not collected taxes from them, even though by law they could. The money the city would collect would barely cover the cost of collecting. The Gray Fox has always guaranteed protection to the poor of the waterfront. He doesn't want to let this injustice stand. It's a matter of principle.
A team up here in Canada changed their name from Eskimos so as not to offend the Inuits, most of whom said they liked the name.
He is a fool of a captain in the Imperial Watch. He's a real law and order type. He has a grudge against the Thieves Guild and the Gray Fox in particular. Lex has made it his personal mission to capture him. The Gray Fox has led our guild for over 300 years now. He has always guaranteed protection to the poor of the waterfront. The Gray Fox has led our... Good. Find out where he's keeping the taxes and bring them to me. I'll also need the tax records of what each citizen paid so we can return it. You can pay it. The best source of information. However, be prepared.
All right. We can talk to a beggar and he'll tell us what's up.
Please be... You're looking...
How's 10 coins sound?
Sounds like food on the table.
Look, his voice just changes.
Lex has a small office in the South Watch Tower, and most of the tower is open to the public. Oh, but not his quarters. Always glad.
All right.
Blessings.
Untaxing the poor. See, you're a good guy. You know, you're stealing from the evil government. Now let's go ahead and murder all my friends. Let's quickly murder everyone in the Dark Brotherhood right now. Oh, I think I went in at the wrong side.
How are you today?
Yeah, there's some good items that Jaskar sells. Is it Jaskar? No. Whatever the Khajiit is in Dark Brotherhood. But they're not that good. So if you ever are playing this and you're like, man, maybe I should save up my gold to buy like the Boots of Bloody Bounding or whatever, it's like, nah, you don't really need them. Let's find him.
Ah, there you are.
There he is.
Ah,
Now he likes you all of a sudden. I love this.
look, I've been thinking, and well.
Oh, we're out of
I
time.
just want to say
we're gonna
I'm
have to
sorry for the way I've
Put a
treated
pause on the murder of everyone. We'll murder everyone next time.
I mean,
Maybe on Saturday.
Look at you, the things you've accomplished. You've obviously proven.
See, they're gonna try to
yourself
make you feel
a
bad about
valuable
murdering everyone.
sanctuary.
These guys are murderers, though. They're bad guys. We
So
shouldn't feel
let's
bad
start
about killing
over,
them.
Shall we? I know from now on, you and I are going to be great friends. Now, is that something you'd like to buy or sell? Only quality
You
goods
can get
for
some
sale
good
here.
spells.
What can I interest you in?
Like, see, he has 100% disposition now. Yeah, all of these are pretty good spells. The invisibility one is actually really useful because you can do a lot of stuff with it. Let me haggle a little bit. See if I can haggle him up. There we go.
Tell your.
You can also...
Let's do business.
Let's see what he's got. The Bow of Infernal Frost is pretty good. It's actually a really good bow. But you don't need to buy it. You can make something just as good on your own. It's not even like that good of a bow. Arrow of Misery. These are pretty good. Yeah, none of these are that good. The Hands of Midnight are pretty cool. They have Chameleon on them, which is nice. But man, they're like way too expensive. And it also has sun damage that'll just kill you. And he does sell poison apples, so you can buy those if you want. And a petty soul gem and lockpicks, which are good. I should buy some more repair hammers because those are good to have. I'll buy some lockpicks too. Like 20 of those bad boys. You can't loot all this stuff off of him after you kill him for some reason, though. That would be cool. Because you can get this all for free. But you can't. But you can sell him stuff if you want. Here. He buys stolen stuff, which is pretty useful. Honestly.
Another. Until we meet again, my dear friend.
So, anyway, I'm going to save it here. And I'm probably going to call it a night. And we'll kill everyone next time. We'll systematically murder everyone in the Dark Brotherhood. Because they're bad guys. Right. Okay, guys, I'm going to link the book giveaway again. And you can download that. Muramasa Blood Drinker. We'll give that one away. Give that one away for free today. Just, you know, if you like samurai games, you might like the Muramasa book. It's good. It's a fun book. So go ahead and download it. And I'll see you guys next time. And have a good one.